Welcome to Smarter Circuits, the podcast. I need a fix because I'm going down. Today I want to talk about automation overkill. Are you Rube Goldberging your light switch? Let's find out. But first, I want to talk about a couple other things briefly. Number one, the viewers will notice that there is something a little bit different. I am showing my show notes. And this is kind of just random. I didn't really plan to do this. I opened up OBS, and this is just the thing it happened to be set on. And I said, maybe I'll do that on the podcast and see if they like it. So do let me know in the comments if you like seeing the show notes, or if it's somehow broken the magic for you. Let me know. Also, I am sort of changing plans for the videos. I keep talking about the videos that I'm doing whenever I do the podcast, and obviously things change a lot, and a lot of that depends on where and when I can shoot what, and also what I have prepared or don't have prepared. And then there's also a few videos. I don't know if there's any right now. There will be very shortly. But there are some videos that actually require time in between. Let's say I'm testing a thing for a week. Well, I have to test it for a week. So sometimes that makes things change order. And on that, I am going to be doing a video on smartwatches first. And the reason that I say that is because I actually have all the footage I need. I just need to shoot the narration, and then that's going to be a thing. And then I will do the robot video I've been talking about, and then I will probably follow up with the Shelly instructional or some other Shelly videos. I'm not sure yet. There's stuff and things being talked about. The other thing that I wanted to do, though, because I got a comment from somebody not too long ago talking about thermostats, I have been wanting to get back to some HVAC stuff. Not specifically thermostats, although I may make another thermostat. I had planned to create a Shelly thermostat. I even have some video that I shot doing that thing. But I made a mistake and I toasted my power supply, and I haven't got around to fixing that device. So I haven't finished that video, but I may do that. But that's not even the whole thing. I want to do some other stuff that is kind of helpful more to any homeowner, and I'm very loosely justifying it being Smarter Circuits, but I do want to talk about things like, drafts. Like, there is a thing that there are several things you don't mess with in your HVAC system. A lot of times there is a very specific purpose for the balance of negative and positive air pressure, which flowing air is the result of that difference. And so you're producing that difference. And anytime you are moving anything along something else, you have the potential of generating static from friction. And that's not always true. Of course, there are things that don't, but when you're moving air around, it does. And then I also want to talk about the controls themselves, the general wiring, basically, which wire does what, when you will see what setup, and then I also want to talk about things you should never, ever, ever tamper with yourself unless you are, certified or trained somehow. Gas. I generally don't mess with anything to do with the fuel system of a furnace or heater. CO2, you do not want to do anything to any of the parts of your furnace that are, like the heat exchanger, for instance. Nothing that seals the combustion and the exhaust of said combustion, or the result of said combustion. You don't want to be anywhere near that stuff unless you know absolutely 100% what you're doing, or you could kill your family. And you should also know that the breaker that is on your furnace is even more of, excuse my French, more of an asshole than the other breakers. So I think I may have mentioned this a couple times. Breakers are not your friend. Basically, they are there to protect the wires in the walls and the kind of the receptacles. Basically, they're there to prevent fire. They're there to prevent things from overheating because of, either a short or overloading. So they're not there to protect you. They won't pop because you stuck your tongue in the outlet. Now, there may be resulting heat that makes them trip, but chances are you're already screwed before that. And when it comes to the 50 amp breaker that many HVAC systems are on, or at the very least, even a 20, nothing about that circuit that cares about you at all. So you really, really, really need to know what you're doing if you are going to mess with such things. And that's generally true of all electrical systems. But this is, it's kind of like, okay, your electrical system can kill you just at the, on the 120 side. This thing will like super kill you, right? Anyway, let's see. And the last thing that I want to talk about before I get into the main topic is the Discord. I encourage you, if you are somebody who gets into that sort of thing, if you get on forums, if you like getting in chat rooms and message, I don't know, servers, whatever, come on in, check out the Discord server. The people there are really cool. The community is really starting to grow. There are a lot of people in there that know a lot of things. Many of them are way smarter than myself. And it's really nice because we've started to create sort of this really big coverage of interests. So if you need advice on a specific topic for a project that you're working on, or even if you want to share your project with other people, there's a lot of that going on there. I definitely encourage you to come check out the Discord server. That's where most of the activity is for the channel, as far as, not video stuff or podcast stuff. And there's, I have tried to maintain websites and things of that nature. I'm really terrible at updating them. So the Discord server is probably the best way to get any sort of outside extra content or interaction, I should say. And I do interact with everybody in there. If you're, for some reason interested in talking to me directly, that is one of the ways that you can do it. And like I said, everybody there, well, I don't want to say everybody, but there are a lot of people there that share their own projects, and they're very interesting projects. Like I said, a lot of smart people in there. And the other thing is, I have been speaking to a few members and viewers about maybe doing some events, small kind of things, just for fun. One of them, because there are so many people who are into these things, we had talked about doing a 3D printed robot war. So this would be like, we kind of hashed out some surface level rules if we do this, where, basically you'd be able to 3D print something that was under 2 kilograms, under 400 by 400 by 400 millimeter. And then, there's rules like no metal weapons, no sharp things, there's speed limits on all kinds of stuff. If we do this thing, I really would like to, but I also need to figure out, like, how do I make sure that everything is safe, and how do I make sure everything is legal, and so on and so forth. So, not sure. Probably be a little while. I wouldn't do it when it was cold out anyway. So, yeah, but that's a thing that I'd like to do. I would like to start doing events one way or the other. And I would also like to start doing, like, sort of contests. I don't have anything to really give as prizes or anything, but I do want to see other people's work. And so I was thinking about doing, like, an automation efficacy challenge, which, would basically be like, show me your most prized about like your proudest moment in designing your smart home or other automation. Like, what is your cleverest thing and most efficient as well, which is why I said efficacy there. And then I was also thinking about doing panels at some point. This would just basically be doing like Q&A on either some kind of streaming platform where you can just come and specifically talk to us and address us. And I realize I could do that on YouTube, but I mean more like an actual Zoom call or Google Meet or something like that with people who we can call on to ask questions or something like that. And when I say we, I'm thinking maybe I go get some guests to come on and talk about, I don't know, maybe I could get somebody from Open Home Foundation or something like that to talk about their products, or I don't know. I have not hashed any of this out beyond sort of just having the ideas, but I would like to do this kind of stuff if I can get it set up. Anyway, okay, so I'm going to stop babbling about this stuff and start babbling about our main topic, which is your automation overkill? And I have some thoughts, and they're going to be thoughts that a lot of people are going to have feelings about. The first one is, I think that Home Assistant is actually, I think it's starting to get a little ridiculous. And when I say that, it's not that it's not effective or useful. It's that if you are spending 60% of your time integrating your automation system into your life, then you're not doing the thing that you're integrating the automation for. You're not being efficient. You're not speeding anything up. You're not saving time. You're creating work. And that's, I think that a lot of people fall into that. I have fallen into that a lot. And then I realized at one point that I didn't really need any more than I had. As a matter of fact, there have been a couple instances when Home Assistant's complexity has become a problem. And I have here, let's see here. Let me back up and go through my list of notes here. The steps to automate any given thing, and this isn't just Home Assistant, this is automation overall, are starting to get ridiculous. Like, how many devices do you need in a row to go from person moved in room to light is on, right? Or even person moved in room and it's dark enough to turn the light on. And I'm bouncing all over my notes here, by the way, if anybody's actually looking at them. Night lights, I have written here, night lights are the pinnacle of automation, because they are. Even the old school ones, the ones that my grandparents had when I was a kid, that just had the photoelectric sensor on the front, when it was dark in the hallway, the nightlight was on. That's a pretty effective automation. Now, you take that just a little bit further, so that you're not wasting electricity when nobody needs the light, and you just need to add a motion sensor. And I have, maybe I'll link to them in the description. I bought these night lights on Amazon that have a motion sensor as well as a light sensor, and they will only come on if both of those things are in a condition that they're meant to turn themselves on. And that's really good. And I think I spent, I want to say $10 for two or something like that. They were not very much at all. And they are actually extremely nice to have. I have them all over the place. They're really great in bathrooms. But they really do demonstrate my point that you don't need all of this complexity. And the more I think on it, the more I look at my own automations and when they start to misbehave. And if you're building any kind of smart home, you know what I'm talking about. Your system has at some point misbehaved. There is probably no point in time when your entire system behaves properly. And if there is, kudos to you. You have somehow found the balance required to have reliable automation without being a babysitter, unless you are babysitting it, in which case I would say, again, it has not done the thing it's supposed to do. The reason we all say that we're doing this is to increase efficiency and comfort and that sort of thing. But if it's all you're doing, then it's not doing the other thing. And if it's your hobby, just call it that. And I am preaching to myself here too, right? Because this is stuff that I've started to kind of step back and look and go, do I need to replace a light switch with a touch screen? Is that really necessary? Do I need to micromanage my house when I am not there? Do I need to spend my time away paying attention to my house because I'm away? And we have gone a very long time without doing those things. We used to survive without the internet. We used to turn on lights when we walked into a room and turn them off when we left, unless you're a teenager. We used to have timers for lamps so that, we had the whole lighting cycle when we weren't there thing, which, by the way, and I've talked about this in other videos. The concept of having your lights come on when you're not there so that robbers think there's somebody home is stupid. It really is. I don't know, maybe it's a passion crime kind of thing. And what I mean by that is, somebody's walking down the street and you're like, you know what? I don't think anybody's at this house. I think I'm going to go take their TV. Oh, wait, nope, their living room light just came on. They must be home. I'm not going to do that. Maybe that happens, but I think what really happens is if somebody is actually looking to break into your home, the lights are let's assume for a moment that you own a car and there is plenty of evidence around the home to suggest that you own a car and you use that car. And maybe your car isn't there and the robber thinks, well, you must have gone with the car, right? Because you have one. And you might say, well, what about a garage? Okay, let's say you have a garage that you can't see into. Number one, if you are going to get a robber who is going to be brazen enough to try to break in without knowing anything about the house or you, what they're after, where they're going, or any of that stuff, they're going to do it anyway. You're not going to prevent it. And you're certainly not going to prevent it by watching it happen on the plane. You might be able to call the police, but so can ADT, and they have for a very long time been able to do that. And loud alarms are great. They're a bigger deterrent because they make the person intruding on your home think, oh no, I'm going to get caught. That's the preventative measure. You have to tip the security balance. You have to tip, I keep bumping the microphone, I apologize. You have to tip the balance in your favor between the value of breaking into your home and the chance of getting caught or injured. And I'm not saying injure your robbers. I am not pro injure human beings, okay? If somebody's trying to steal from you, I do not believe that warrants mortally wounding another human being. It's just stuff. Calm down. But now I'm not saying that it's okay to do. And if they pose a threat to you, by all means, eliminate said threat. But know whether or not they are actually a mortal threat before you go, removing somebody's son, brother, father, friend from the world. Anyway, I'm not, and I didn't mean to go off on a moral tangent there, but the point is, turning your lights on and off with a timer, not going to stop anybody, especially not the other kind of robber, the real kind of robber. If you are the kind of person who has the kinds of things that real robbers want to steal. If you are of a certain class and people know about your stuff, the kind of robber that you are trying to prevent from taking your things will watch your home for quite a while before deciding when the best opportunity would be for them to come and take your stuff without being detected or suspected. You know, who knows if you're having furniture delivered or not, right? Who knows if that box truck with no markings on it and the two guys in overalls with the work gloves getting out are meant to be there or not. That's the kind of thing that's, that's really a threat, actually. And guess what? Those guys are going to know whether or not you're faking it. They're going to know where you are, or at least whether or not you are actually there. And chances are they're going to know a good chunk of your security attempts, how you've set things up to protect your stuff, because it's their job to come and get it, right? Like, if we look at it that way, foghorn leghorn style, see you tomorrow, Frank. It is their job to take your stuff, and it's your job to try to stop them from taking your stuff. And that's, again, for most of my listeners/viewers, it's probably not you. You've got to have some pretty good stuff, and people who are pretty eager to get it have to know about it before it becomes a problem. And if you're in an area where there's like just random break-ins and crime, again, the criminal that is committing that crime is not likely to be too concerned about your Ring doorbell. People who are desperate enough to smash and grab don't care about those things. So there really is little reason. And don't get me wrong, there are conveniences that are afforded by being able to monitor or remotely control. And I don't want to take that away from anybody. I'm not saying that it's not a good idea to have those things. It's a good idea to know what they are and to not rely on them. I feel absolutely terrible about my wife having a sprained ankle because the thing that did not work may have contributed significantly to her rolling her ankle. One of the reasons that she missed the step is because the light did not come on when the motion was detected because Home Assistant was busy doing something else. And it's the first time that something has been that perfect storm, but it happened. And it makes me want to remove all of my automation from Home Assistant and give it to the devices. That particular device I also have not updated. So it's an older Shelly Motion, and I didn't get into it and do the thing that I've been doing with all of the newer Shelly Motion devices that I have, which is setting up a script so that they not only alert Home Assistant through the regular COIoT stuff, but they actually talk directly to the other Shelly device, the relay, and say, hey, I just detected motion, turn on. Because that's a little bit faster. And even that, I'm actually starting to question in some places. In some places, dare I say, I think I might just add a regular old light with a motion sensor. Or a light switch. Now, I have a situation where just adding a light switch is difficult, to be honest, because there are no regular light switches in this half of the house because it's all controlled by the low voltage system. In the addition, there are a few, and I've left them the way they are, and put the relays in lamps there because there's no overhead lights in that area. So that places like stairwells and hallways, maybe just rely on better, simpler technology. Maybe don't overcomplicate it. And this is another thing that I talked about quite some time ago. There is a thing that we have done for a really long time, I found out, that I think is absolutely the most perfect automation, and that's limit switches or ball switches in the door jambs for closets, that when you open it, it just turns the light on. Basically, it's the fridge door. And I don't know who first went, hey, I could do the same thing with the fridge door in my closet, but that person was an absolute genius, because that is always going to work. That ball switch does not need a software update. And here's the thing. Your motion sensor should not need a software update. If your motion sensor, a potentially necessary device for either operating something in your home or securing your home, should not need software updates. Not when it is possible to use that device just as effectively without connecting it to the internet or creating a situation where it requires firmware to do what it does. There are circuits that you can make that will do the same task without involving a microcontroller, without complicating things. We should be doing those things when it comes to motion detection, temperature sensing. These are things that do not need to be connected to the internet. Now, if as a secondary, they report their information to a system that allows you to see it, but is in no way, shape, or form in the functional pathway, fine. Okay, if you can somehow manage to do that, if you can make your thermostat an absolute thermostat before it's an internet-connected thermostat, which most of them are, I will give them that, because regulations. Because if companies could get away with making half-assed thermostats, they would. They don't, because they could potentially burn your house down. And that's the kind of risk that their lawyers tell them maybe they should avoid. Now, don't expect it to be their hearts. Companies don't have hearts. They are machines designed to make money, right? The only way they will not mow you down in the process is if you put blockers in front of them. So, but when you think about convenience matters, they'll drop the ball all the time. And that sucks. You have to simplify your life in order to avoid that, in my opinion. And again, I'm not saying don't automate. I'm not saying don't have the remote control, but be very cautious about having complete control over that system, regardless. I don't like cloud connectivity at all, to be honest. And the reasons are more than just the obvious ones. It's not just the privacy issue, which is a huge one. Don't get me wrong. I do not trust these companies. And I don't care if it's TikTok or Google. I don't trust companies with my information, right? They don't need to have any more information about me than is necessary to do the thing I am paying them to do. Excuse me, my stomach is making all kinds of weird noises. Anyway, the other thing is, now that I've tangented way past my notes, technology is fine and good, but waste is stupid. Doing things like, so I have some examples here. You don't need ChatGPT to look up a recipe, okay? And if you do, well, I guess we are getting everything we deserve by setting the planet on fire, because that's really stupid. It's stupid to do these things unnecessarily, especially when we know there is absolutely a finite amount of resources in general. And so we should not waste them on trivial things when we could still be just as comfortable by doing without, right? I do not understand why we are putting so much AI in everything. This buzzword, this hype, this marketing ploy is going to destroy our infrastructure. It is putting massive wear and tear on the equipment we use to do all the things we're doing. And it is eating immense amounts of power for no good reason, okay? I don't care how efficient you make the thing. If it's unnecessary, any amount of electricity being used for it is too much electricity being used for it. Your light switch does not passively consume electricity. Your touchscreen does. I don't care how efficient it is. There will be people that will argue with me, I've got mine down to 200 milliamp. Great. Fantastic. My light switch still doesn't use that much. And again, I don't mean to belittle or bash automation as a whole. And the little bit of electricity that it takes to monitor those things, I myself am using, right? I have relays, I have remote controlled stuff, I have sensors all over the place, and I have done the math, like many people have, to figure out how much I'm using there. And I've tried to remove that elsewhere, wherever possible. But again, I'm kind of stepping back now and saying, maybe I should be simplifying a little bit more for the sake of actually being efficient and being honest about my automation. If I intend to be done one day, and I thought I was, but then I realized that I've gone a little past the finish line, I need to back up to the point where I have a balance between what is automated, what is wasteful, and what's actually dependable too. Because there's a lot of devices that I have that in 5 years' time, they're not going to be usable. Whereas their analog counterpart probably would have. Or at least their simpler form would have, right? Because there are still circuits you can create, places where you can use microcontrollers and still maintain that balance of efficiency and usefulness versus consumption. But anyway, I don't think that we need to do all of this complex crap that we're doing. Certainly not the AI. Your light switch does not need AI. It doesn't need AI. There is a finite amount of logic that you can create in order to cover all possible use cases. And when that is true, you don't need AI. The jukebox does not need the souped-up jukebox, right? Because it can mechanically handle the task. And that's true of a lot of things that we have. I don't need AI to suggest shit in my email. I don't need AI to pick the songs on Spotify for me. They were doing just fine, randomizing it the way they were prior to. And I definitely don't need AI writing my fiction or painting my pictures. Because, okay, yeah, maybe it looks cool, but that's it. That is the totality of it. There's no substance underneath. And I think that that's awful. Anyway, so what do I have here? Oh, and I said, this is the note that I have about the efficiency thing. The whole concept of automation in the beginning was increased comfort and utility as well as energy savings. Now, our spouses hate us, our lights don't always work, and we're burning more energy to have voice assistants with AI and dashboards for light switches. Light switches don't have a passive electricity usage, oddly enough. I cannot drive home enough the point that I don't care if you can afford it. If that's your reason, if that's the justification for using too much electricity to do the things that we're doing with all this automation, that's Not great. We do need to step back. We need to decide how much is too much, and if we actually need all of it. I named this channel Smarter Circuits, and I guess I've never really talked about this part. There are unnecessary circuits. There are dumber circuits. And a lot of smart circuits are dumb because they're counterproductive to our species. There are some things that we have created that are absolutely fantastic. You are hearing/seeing me here on this magnificent flashing lights device because of the great things that we have innovated and built. But we went way past where we should have said, hey, this is pretty good. And that's not to say that we can't innovate new things, create new things, or make things better. We can. And we could have started that process much further back had we stopped at internet-enabled ice boxes. Right? Your toaster does not need to have a touchscreen. It doesn't need to be internet capable and certainly should not require a firmware update. If some part of your life behaves or functions the same as it did before it was a smart device, but it's added the complexity of, updates, internet connectivity, cloud apps, etc., then that is not good. That is a dumber circuit. I have babbled quite a bit about this topic. I'm probably going to review this, hate it, and throw it out. I don't know. Maybe I won't. I think that I need to start just kind of letting a lot of this go. I have done multiple takes for a few episodes because I was afraid of just sort of babbling and going off on a tangent, and I have decided that I am not going to worry about those things anymore, especially because I have much bigger things that I would like to do with the channel. Again, I keep... I'm just going to end it. Okay, you know what? Final thoughts. You can contact me, if you would like to do so, at smartercircuits@gmail.com, or you can jump on the Discord, which I spoke about earlier. You can direct message me on the Discord. Don't be weird. Or you can, of course, comment on the video if you are watching the video on the YouTubes. I always welcome feedback because, well, that's how I know whether or not I'm doing the things that you would like to see or hear. And I would like to thank all members, subscribers, viewers, listeners, and attentive telepaths for your minutes. We are all allotted an unknown limited supply of minutes, and you've chosen to give me some of yours. It's the greatest gift anybody can give is their time, because it's the only thing you can't get back. So yeah, thank you, and I hope you'll join me next week as I continue to rattle on incessantly and complain about smarter circuits.